Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick, spiritual life coach and your host of Higher Energetic Resonance Inspirations. This week, the topic is the dark night of the soul. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness unconscious. Carl Jung. From Ram Dass, the dark night of the soul is when you have lost the flavour of life, but have not yet gained the fullness of divinity. So it is that we must weather that dark time, the period of transformation when what is familiar has been taken away and the new richness is not yet ours. So to delve into the subject, the topic, the experience, the phenomena of the dark night of the soul. Now, the actual phrase itself has a historical origin, and it's attributed to St. John of the Cross, who was a Spanish mystic and poet who lived during the 16th century. And the dark night of the soul itself is about having a deep spiritual experience, and it's usually comes across and feels so much like a crisis. And during that moment in time, it will feel like literally everything in your life is up for question, is up for renewal. Sometimes it's even up for being discarded. And as you investigate and as you explore each of these things, and it can be that you question absolutely everything about yourself. My own experience has been that there have been numerous occasions when I've gone through this period of time and I've questioned everything from things that would seem quite light, like my diet and the things that I eat, and made shifts around that or not, as the case may be. The way that I worked, the people that I associate with, the way that I dress, the way that I do my hair, what I watch, what I read, and then deeper levels as to like, what am I doing? What am I here for? The bigger questions. And that's kind of characteristic of the dark night of the soul. And that period of time is just everything it's almost like a revealing of everything, like a deep questioning of everything. But at that point in time, you don't have any answers. It's a period of loneliness. People will say it's a period of limbo, of not knowing what the answers are, not resolving any of your questions, but doing that deep introspection and that deep questioning. So you can even go through a stage where you feel that maybe you're lost, you're spiritually lost, that you're being abandoned by your relationship with the divine God, creator, universe, seems up for question also, and you don't seem to be able to get those answers from it yourself. And also, as you're going through this period of turmoil, it's a period also of purification, of detox almost, so that you're knowing there's part of you that your soul knows that the path that you're on, if you want to reach the full expansion and evolution of who you are at that core, at that soul level, is not going to be able to be possible by you continuing to do the things that you do. And as I said, it can be trivial things that you would consider to be trivial, like the way that you dress, like the food that you eat, to those deeper aspects of yourself, the way that you're seeing the world and the way that you're showing up in the world in itself. And there's a quote from Vanessa Ooms, "Do it for you, how to stop people pleasing and find peace. Sometimes life will tear your house apart so you can see the cracks in the foundation." And I think that's a beautiful way of putting it, really, because if we think, if we use the cracks in the foundation, the cracks in the wall, a lot of the time we are able to mask and paper over the reality of what's going on beneath the surface and try and go forward. And everything looks kind of pretty from the outside and looks like it's functioning. But there will come a moment where that temporary fix is not really going to help us going forward. Or if it does, then we're having to add more to keep everything together, as opposed to being able to live and experience ourselves freely. So how does that kind of thing start? What would trigger a dark night of the soul? For many people, it can come from different things. It can either be life events, so a loss of job, a breakdown of a relationship, a bereavement in the family, or just a unrelenting sense of despondency, disillusionment, and lack of satisfaction with what's going on. And there's part of you that just feels that you want to move forward and feel bogged down by the choices and the way that you're showing up in the world. Existential questioning, if I think of a lot of the times that I used to have these moments, that always used to happen in the middle of the night. If I kind of got up and went to the bathroom, there was this sense of, is this it? Is this what's going on? Especially when I was going through that period of that dark night. And from Joseph Campbell is famous for his The Hero's Journey. A quote from him is, "When everything is lost and all seems darkness, then comes the new life and all that is needed." So the purpose of the dark night of the soul is that core of you stripping away things like attachments that you have, things that the way that the ego is showing up in the world, or the way that you're fooling yourself, the illusions that you have in your life that are hindering your expansion. And it's an invitation for you to surrender, to drop all of that fakeness, that old self, and open up to have the space and invite deeper connection so that you have a more authentic expression of who you are, who the true nature of yourself is. And also during that time, it may really feel that you are going through a period of depression, and there may feel like there's a lot of similarities and overlapping symptoms. But the dark night of the soul is in itself primarily about spiritual experiences. So it's not just solely about mental health issues, although it may feel that way. The yearning, the core of it comes from the deeper soul or the higher soul aspect of who you are. And the positives of going through this dark night of the soul, it only ever is positive if you allow it to be. The longer that you resist what's happening, the more that you try and suppress the symptoms or the outward showing of what it is that you're going through, will kind of delay the movement forward. And while it is no fun to feel that you're alone in this world, while it is no fun to be in that space of being lost and not having any answers and being in that limbo stage, it's an invitation for you to just be separate from everything that you've attached yourself to and exist there. And it's uncomfortable because we're so used to being identified by something, by being attached, and by our relative experience and understanding to those things. This gives us the space to just float and be in the who am I, where am I, what is this all about? And then it allows you to have the opportunity, or it allows the space for other things to come through and from you to assess them. Once you've got used to being in this surrendered limbo state, to not necessarily immediately attach yourself to things that come towards you. If anything, and pulling from my own experience of this, is you become more discerning and maybe to a certain extent a little bit distrustful of things that present themselves to you as a solution, as a way out during that period of time. You really dig into the core of what it is that hasn't worked for you. Once you can accept that there has been so much that hasn't worked for you, and really then asking yourself, well, why didn't that work? And then you become reluctant to just go back into something again for the sake of it, for the sake of comfort, for the sake of moving forward. And the longer that you can allow yourself to bask in this space, to float in this space, to be surrendered, to let go of all of those things that were never working for you, then over time there starts to be a burgeoning of a new self, of a new possibility, and you start to then feel the beauty of the process of what you're going through and the possibilities that are open to you. Once you've detached yourself from everything, It means that the moment that you decide that you're going to re-emerge, anything is up for grabs, because you're welcoming, because you are yearning to have an identity, but also you have the recent memory of what it is to have had so many things that were not aligned to the core of yourself. You can show up anew in the world, you can show up with a new strength, you can have a deeper respect of all possibilities for yourself. And during this period of time, it's for you to decide if you want to have some support and guidance to assist you through this period of time. And you may make the choice to engage with spiritual mentors or groups that can help you move through the challenges, and that you can actually find like-minded hearts and souls to communicate what you're experiencing during that period of time. Again, it's necessary to approach these things with discernment and caution, because you don't want to then just kind of fall back into another comfortable space to avoid doing the work, to bypass the lessons and the opportunity that is there in front of you. And for anyone who's ever been through a dark night of the soul, or 2 or 5, you will come out of this stronger. You will be cultivating a level of resilience and self-worth and self-love. As you see that you're moving through this, you'll start to really develop a deep compassion and a deep respect for yourself as you see what you're working through and how the world is changing for you, and how, as a result, you feel that you'll be able to change the world. So this may include practices such as deep meditation, prayer. You may also discover ways to express yourself in truth. It could be journaling, writing, drawing, anything creative, something that kind of allows you to play and just dabble without any kind of expectation or judgment in it. It's also a great time to just really appreciate what's real in the world and what's never changing. Nature, being in the space of things that are beautiful, around things that persist despite what we see in the world. Nature, trees, animals, children. You start to really notice the innocence, but the strength in innocence, and to align with the innocence of these things, and also allow your own personal innocence and love and joy to come through. And as you feel that you're emerging from your dark night of the soul experience, there'll be then a phase of you to then work on integrating yourself back into the world. And if I think about when I experienced, or one of the first times that I really experienced that dark night of the soul and truly understood what it was that was happening to me, for a long time I was very reluctant to just be out in the world, because what I was discovering about myself was very new and felt very fragile, and I didn't yet feel that I had it grounded in myself to not then go out in the world and be overly influenced by anything that was happening around me, or any questioning that I would experience, because I felt that there was such a radical shift happening in me, and I hadn't yet truly embodied that into every aspect of my being. And luckily during that period of time, and since, I've then been able to find ways to work from home and in a way seclude myself as I was going through that process. As you're stepping forward, it's almost like a bud, opening up, or if you think of the emergence of a butterfly out of the cocoon of total disintegration as the caterpillar, and then emerging itself out. You have to allow that process to take its time. If we ever think that we can help a butterfly emerge into its new expression, we actually destroy it. We don't help it at all. It's then allowing its wings to open up in its own time, and for it to then feel its new strength, its new clarity, its new purpose. For every time that I've emerged out of a shift within myself, I've then felt more wisdom and more certainty about what it is that I'm doing in this lifetime, in this world, and it becomes more grounded, more deeply grounded. And the idea of a dark night of the soul is not relative to any kind of spiritual or religious beliefs. In my experience, people will always experience a level of questioning about who and what they are. The dark night of the soul in itself, the deeper aspects of it will really see you delving into how you're showing up and how your spirituality or your belief system is going to impact the nature of your life going forward. If we think about the term midlife crisis, I believe that in itself is a dark night of the soul that is kind of more widely accepted and then has this kind of cutesy name around it. But then when we think about how many people deal with that experience, they often revert backwards into suddenly, like the stereotypical example of a man going through a midlife crisis is he kind of runs away from his family and job and buys a sports car and dates a younger model. And while, that's a very kind of surface level of dealing with things, there's clearly some level of questioning, there's clearly some level of angst about the period of time that person is going through for them to make such decisions and then express it in that way. But what they may not be seeing is that there is a beautiful opportunity for them to really align with what it is they want. It's not necessary to basically ditch your family and kind of that you may have spent 20, 30 years being a part of, but it is an opportunity to relearn who you are and reassess or communicate with those around you that you're going through these shifts and you need to make some changes and you want to show up in a new way. So people from all different backgrounds and will probably encounter a process, this transformation in their life, and it's just for them to really decide how they allow it to define themselves and what beautiful things can come of it. From Caroline Myss, the dark night of the soul is a journey into light, a journey from your darkness into the strength and the hidden resources of your soul. From Rupi Kaur, Homebody, I'm waking up from the longest night of my life. It's been years since I've seen the sun. Awakening. So if you feel that you're going through this transition, this moment in your life where everything just seems to not make any sense or not resonate with you anymore, know that this is a beautiful experience, a challenging and a tough experience, but on the other side is you and more of you. So thank you for joining me on another episode of Higher Energetic Resonance Inspirations. It's been great to connect with you once again and share what I've been delving into and exploring for you. And also as well, if there's ever anything that you've encountered, any subject matter that you've encountered, do feel free to contact me. Send me a message, and there's a form on my website, which is carolmaywhittick.com. carolmaywhittick.com, and share with me what's coming up for you, or leave a message for me, or drop a note under where you may be finding this. Also, you can still take the Embody Higher Energetic Resonance journey. It's free to join. The link is in the show notes. It's 3 steps closer to being the woman of your dreams. And if you'd like to take a deeper, personalized journey through your transformation with me, use the link to explore the possibilities with me in my spiritual life coaching program. Find me on Facebook, carolmaywhittick.com, on Instagram, Kazmick, Cazmick. Until the next episode, have a great week. Speak soon. Take care.